Welcome to Charmed Life, a radio show discussing spirituality, magic, and the unconditional love of the universe. Thanks for tuning in. And I'm your host, Tricia Carr. Thank you for joining me today. I want to tell you about a couple of things before we dive into my awesome guest. I'm going to dive into my guest. Well, we're really close, but we're not close like that. Anyway, let me get back on track here. She's laughing even though she hasn't been brought on yet. This is what we're getting into today. All right, so I'm Tricia Carr, and this is Charmed Life. And I wanted to just tell you about a couple of things. One is that I have registration open for my Empowered Empath and Highly Sensitive Intuitive program. Do go to triciacarcharm.com/empath. We start in about a week, so go sign up. Also, I'm doing a free master training tomorrow on narcissism and what sensitive people need to know about this topic. It is actually really interesting that the topic that we're doing today really ties into what I'm teaching tomorrow about narcissism and these so-called narcissistic epidemic, and just basically the balance between a pendulum swinging from one way to the other, because we are talking about divine feminine. Oop, there's a little preview. But if you want to be able to join this, just go to my Facebook page. That's facebook.com/TriciaCarCharm, and you'll be able to find it there. And you'll also be able to find that I'm teaching an intuitive and mediumship development class actually today, a couple of hours after this show ends today. And I'm doing it every other Sunday. So it's at 2 p.m. Pacific every other Sunday. And you'll be able to find that on my Facebook page as well. I'll be putting it up on the website soon, just getting it all going. And so I hope that you guys can join me there, because we are having a really great time in all of these different forums. And I just love getting to know everyone better and to be able to work with you. One last thing, please do visit my Patreon community. It's patreon.com/TriciaCarr. Just go check it out. If you've ever been interested in working with me, there are a lot of really cool ways to do that, to engage, and we truly are building a community there. So I'd love for you to check that out. And without any further ado, I would love to welcome my amazing guest. She is an Archangel Realm Reader and Spirit Channel, Lauren Antuofermo. Welcome, Lauren.
Hi, Tricia.
We are talking about the divine feminine today, and I'm so excited. Yeah. I'm super excited, Lauren, for you to give me all of the education that you're working on, that you've been receiving about this topic, and even expand it out to how it is impacting our daily life and our social issues. So, yeah. You've been on the show many times, but would you want to go ahead and tell people a little bit about the work that you're doing?
Sure. My main role as an intuitive and in Archangel Realm Reader and Channel is to work with people and get out the word of compassion, healing through compassion. Love has no conditions. Love is, universal. We work very similar angles of this, but I am really focused now on introducing new concepts to the Body of Light program that I've been doing for a while now, and just accessing bigger roles for us to play in the divine feminine and as we grow into the spiritual world. And when we do that, we're just combining more and more knowledge as we grow, as we become more aware of what's needed to shift into a better connection of love. Yes. Of love on here. So I do individual readings. I do coaching. I work mostly with people who want to get out of the physical pain and fears and worries and lack-based mentality and go into a feeling of abundance, growth, wealth, and happiness. So yes, that's my spiel.
There you go. Also, we should say hello to the Lightworkers Lab. Lauren and I are moderators, teachers, and guides in the Lightworkers Lab, an online spiritual community founded by our wonderful friend Crystal Ann Compton. You can find the Lightworkers Lab on Facebook by searching for the Lightworkers Lab. It's a group. It functions as a Facebook group, a beautiful community. And Lauren is our moderating manager. She's the boss lady up in that space.
Hey, Lab fam.
Yes. We even have, we call each other the Lab fam. Jarvis is in there. Yeah, Jarvis visits us there too. So back to the topic of the divine feminine. And what is very interesting, I think we are in this era, I know we're definitely in this era of ascending by emphasizing our awareness upon the divine feminine because, well, frankly, we have been in patriarchy and an excess of yang energy for a very long time. So the yin is actually coming in to help us to balance so that we can move toward ascension.
Yeah, definitely.
So what have you been seeing?
I think that the idea of the divine feminine has been so so mishandled or so misused in history that it was really important for the divine feminine to rise in such a way that it became not only equal but separate from the masculine. So we serve the masculine, but the masculine serves the divine feminine in that it provides the material for the compassion of the feminine urge to receive. Does that make sense? Because that's what's been coming through very powerfully. Like the divine feminine is the urge to receive, become creative in the energy of not just money and power and struggle power, but when we all receive, we are complementing one another. We're not fighting against one another for money or land or particular power struggles. We're complementing the idea that in order to receive, we also have to kind of create, and destruction of the earth energy has come about through too much of the male force coming about in anger and fear of the material. Mm-hmm. Fear of the material creates pain, which creates anger, which creates violence, which creates fear based on lack. And so we see a lot of the lack, the fear, the pain, and the struggle of who has, power and who has what, and those types of things. When we introduce the raising of the divine feminine, it's more of a balancing so that when we complement one another, there's no longer a need to fight for resources. We are receiving and creating, equally, but in individual ways.
Yes. Absolutely. I'm sorry. We actually, your microphone seems to swell up in volume and then swell back down. I don't know how to manage it, but I just wanted to let you know. If there's a way to manage it, then I don't know if you can.
Is this any better? Because when I hear you, it's a little bit the same, like you're up and down.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I think that's better. I think that's better. Is that better, Jarvis? We'll see. We'll just keep going, and we will ask for Archangel Gabriel to bless the lines of communication at this time, that they may be smooth and that the message of love may be able to reach all of us who are in attendance of this gathering and holding the space together. In much gratitude, we say, and so it is. Thank you. Okay, great. So, yes, that absolutely makes sense. And a parallel that comes to mind as we're talking about that balance, and just basically, again, as the pendulum does swing, is the right brain and left brain, or the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind is very much like the feminine, the divine feminine, the conscious mind being very much like the divine masculine. And if we have a preponderance of just conscious, meaning like the linear kind of mind, then we actually we aren't serving that feminine, the subconscious, which is actually the aspect that creates. Just like the model of male and female humans, the body of the woman receives and then creates and fosters and then gives. It actually is a cycle when we need both.
Yes. You put that it's hard for me to put in words, because as I'm connecting more and more with earth energy, something about the way it's being transmitted to me has taken on like a new level of depth. And I'm noticing things in the divine feminine that we have to heal as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That we can begin to heal on both levels. And so it becomes like a little bit difficult for me to like put it all into you're so much better with words than I am.
Oh, no, I disagree.
That's why sometimes I just go into channel and I'm like, all right, guys, you take over, because I'm finding it hard to have the words. But I would at some point love to channel the message from the Archangel Raphael and actually Ariel, who is our connection, both in the divine feminine. She has a very strong communication of earth realm, and she has a very strong message for us today. So I'm already feeling it
Let's go.
That created a feeling within me to really want to talk about this today with you, especially because we share so much of that earth energy, even with the divine, heavenly experience that we have with the angelic light.
Mm-hmm.
So
if you're feeling it, you can bring it forward whenever you like. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
So Lauren is going to, if you're not familiar with it, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Oh, go ahead.
Ariel and Raphael. Lauren is a spirit channel, so she brings forward a clear channel from the Archangel realm. The archangels are the basically the brothers and sisters who were the first creations of source energy. And so we all, as Lauren said, Lauren and I have the connection with Archangel Ariel. We descend from Archangel Ariel. And so these light beings connect through the channel of Lauren and bring forth the energy, and she articulates it as speech. So whenever everyone is ready.
Perfect. Thank you. Because sometimes when I can feel it, I don't know if you get that sometimes, like you have your own thought stream and then something else is coming in. You're like, wait a minute, which one do I connect to?
Right.
I'm like, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So thank you. As we are creators, as well as the human race, we are communicators of abundance. As we receive you and we are revealers of that clarity, we say to you, as the divinity of the earth realm is feminine, and it is a communication of compassion that reveals the emotional state of women, we ask that all women erase fears of one another. When we access the point of abundance, we say to you that when we reveal to you the clarity of the following energy message, we want you each to take part in the higher realms of complacency in the joy of life. What that isn't is a frequency by which we have to suffer first in order to align with higher beings. Now, as we are revealers of clarity and abundance, we said to you that this would be a message for all of womankind. The better the alignment between one another, the better the choice of abundance. When we are creators, we are prepared to receive the alignment of that which we call God. When we reveal God as the divinity between you and the earth, we said to you that the body would also include divinity on earth. When the human mind is dissected between Archangel Realm and the feminine urge to create, we said it isn't enough to just receive abundance. It is good to receive. It is also good to reveal what that is called is compassion for that which is suffering. When the body of compassion is connected to the human race and you feel the energy of their suffering, you want to assess what is happening. You want to assess what is occurring in the divinity of which you are seeing. Because in the light of God, there is no fear, there is no pain, there is no suffering. But when a human is suffering in the idealistic ways that human energy has purported to jack up the fear of what is happening, we ask you to proceed with caution in the frequency of judgment. When we said to you that the joy of clarity would be given, we say to you that in love, there is no pain. And when there is trust given to the feminine light, bodies become aware of itself to receive guidance and clarity. Although this may seem or may be different than what you have constantly energetically connected to before, we say to you, now is the time that the energy of the earth realm complete its cycles of fear and suffering. And when we give this to you, we give this to you with great honor. It is the divinity of the woman who is revealing that compassion that needs to be acknowledged before the healing could occur. Once we acknowledge pain within the frequency of communication with human beings, we say that once the pain is acknowledged, the healing can begin. As we discover within the realm of humankind, women are divided amongst each other. We said there is lack between the feminine urge to receive compassion for one another and the idealistic energy that could be received if there was only compassion for one another's artistic views, clarity about them, and the awareness of where there is fear and suffering. When there is suffering, there is a communication. Where is it that we see suffering? In the image of a woman who has the body of light, answers the call of racism and pain within the woman's idea, there's a listening aspect, a component of needing to hear what the fellow energetic awareness of suffering is. Where is their pain? Where is their complementary anger? Where is their suffering? In the idealistic view, all women would be heard, but there are portions of society that are being repressed by the frequency of pain and anguish about it. When we complement the idea that all women are useful in the frequency of clarity and connection to source, we also send the ideal energy that women of color and the body of light is also revealed by those who have ancestry of connection to earth. When we are powerful enough to listen to those who have something to say about the way they have evolved in communities, in tribal energy, and importance to what it meant for white energy to be complementary of their ideals and connections to earth, we send joy and say, please expect that those who have created the connection of their spiritual light also need recognition of it. When we say to you this, be connected to those who have something to hear as well. When women are apart from one another, they create discord in the relationship between earth and the frequency of divinity that can be heard through the compassionate unification of women everywhere. And when we say to you this, be creative in the idea that compassion first, even in the listening to pain and anger, is needed before healing can begin. We said to you, be creative in the Archangel realm who will help you hear the messages of what needs to be received. Listen to the Archangel realm and say, be patient in the idealistic way that you want everyone to feel good. We say there is suffering to hear. When we hear these messages of suffering, we must acknowledge the alignment by which we can offer help and assistance. And when we communicate with these idealistic ways of compassion, we must also uncover the ways in which we contribute to the lack of what is being offered. When we discover there is lack in what we have created on earth, we can contribute to the solution. And this is the light of God through feminine energy on earth. We love you. We say thank you and amen.
That was wonderful. I took a few notes there. That was it's amazing, Lauren. You and I are always, this is what's so crazy about, I don't know if it's because we do work with Ariel, and Lauren and I won't really be talking about anything that we're receiving for a week or two or something. And then she says, I want to talk about divine feminine. And I'm like, that's basically what I've been working with too. It's amazing. So another parallel there for me is that class that I'm giving tomorrow on narcissism, and narcissism is this kind of like big bad word, but really it's a function, if we look at it as a spectrum, it's actually a function of divine masculine. And that if we identify as not possibly having narcissism because we are a sensitive person, that actually takes us way into the pendulum swinging the other way, and then it must correct. And if that's a little preview about what I'm talking about tomorrow, but it's really amazing about this balance needing to come from, and the connection. Ariel in the channel just now said that we must have compassion first while we're listening. That is the first, rather than defense, because this is what I see when someone brings forward their suffering and about, let's say, being a woman of color to a person who is a white woman. And I'm not. It actually gives me the heebies to kind of be the one representing this, but it's what I've observed. And that white woman will be hurt because she's being, as though she is being, her first response is reactive, like, but I didn't do that. I don't do that, rather than just listening and holding space. I understand that very much. So I think we're kind of getting into it. You wanted to talk about how this is, just to digress a little bit, actually give more context, about how this is actually an issue that is coming up in the thought leaders and the spiritual teachers in this arena.
Yes, there's been quite a few big incidences that I've, been watching and listening to before, because my initial reaction sometimes was, ooh, well, I'm not racist. My message is for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm equal. I don't single out. I'm not just focusing on one area. And I had that reaction of like, all right, well, now I got to do something. What do I do? How do I connect with women of color and say, I need you to tell me what to do. What's the right thing?
Yeah.
And often they're exhausted. It's like, it's like the almost, I don't want to say victim, but it's the one being hurt trying to teach the one who's hurting. And that's emotionally exhaustive.
Mm-hmm.
Yet I've had a couple of spiritual teachers and coaches, that I was able to approach that gave me the different, because I was confused. Like, why is it being called violent? So if you listen to Danielle, if you are a follower of Danielle Laporte, Marianne Williamson, there was another very popular, I'm brain farting the name now, very popular group that was being called out for being calling themselves priestesses, but not including any women of color or giving credit or anything like that at all. And so they were kind of called out on it and say, hey, that's cultural appropriation in a way. How can you be profiting off of this and not even be representing where you got this information from, or where that ideal of, shaman or priestess has come from? So I was taking a lot of this in and going, well, isn't it, the first reaction is, well, isn't it for everybody? Why should we, start judging or creating lines? But what Archangel Raphael and Ariel came through right now was, we have to listen and see where they have been misappropriating a lot of the work that's being done without giving credit, and listening to where they are needing assistance, where their voices are needing heard, where their needs have gone unnoticed, and how different it is for them in this world to achieve similar things that, are easier for white women to achieve. And that right away can bring up a lot of, in either guilt or shame or frustration or anger. But when we stop to listen, we get it, and then we can heal together. Danielle Laporte recently was marketing a year-long huge program called Lighter. And in a lot of the imagery and energy that she was talking about, it used, we'll just call appropriation of Black and Indigenous culture without ever supporting them or calling out, people or representing people of color. Plus the program was called Lighter. And so it made a huge eruption in the spiritual community. And I've noticed and become more aware of the discord between what's being heard and what's not. And so I took it upon myself to really want to learn more, and saw that unless we listen to all women and our needs, we can't call the divine feminine all feminine work. It has to be connected within us first to appreciate, learn, heal, and then together grow in the connection of the balance that we need.
And I don't know what happened with Marianne Williamson. Danielle Laporte, there was imagery. I'm actually going to send it to you, Jarvis, okay? Send it to the Tony email. Okay, I send it to Jarvis. I actually found it. It was difficult to find, and it is confusing. The imagery that she used, and I don't intend to judge anyone, but the imagery that she used some people, bodies, and imagery of people of color, and in a manner. I think part of the line. Correct me if I'm not totally grasping the whole picture here. The line is that, in particular, she was that when people who are marketing, especially a white person or a white woman, is marketing a program, so intending to make money off of the imagery or the culture of someone who is of color, or an indigenous person, and this is the offense, and not crediting it, and the criticism. Jarvis, I can't. Your email's not coming up. The criticism is that that perhaps when she realized, okay, my program is called Lighter, which doesn't have to do with skin tone. It has to do with gravity. Right. She was talking about being right. less weighted down by issues and toxicity even. And I think that wasn't in itself, like no one was claiming, oh, is anyone claiming like, hey, you're calling it Lighter? I mean,
the imagery was shown with like, I don't feel strong enough to like say what the actual issues are without listening to why they are a problem from somebody of color. Sure. But the idea being that she had to take apart a lot of her ingrained beliefs yes. in order to see what was being criticized. And that's kind of what I wanted to focus on today, is for us as women to be able to do that for each other and see that there's a gap in what is being projected and what is actually happening. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes, the defense was, well, that's projection. She's not really racist. Of course she's not racist. But the ideal energy to include women of color in her programs and be educated before speaking on it. And that's why I'm refusing to kind of go into too much detail, mm-hmm. because that's what we have to do. And why I thought it was a good place for us to talk about is just as women being able to listen first before going into how can I help? What am I going to educate people on? You got to have the knowing, the understanding of a problem before it can be, received, listened to, and then connected with a solution.
I was just, Jarvis found the image. Yeah, it's that image right there. It's something that she used for the marketing. And you can see this is a screenshot, and someone even said, what is the meaning behind this imagery? And I'm not trying to comment on it. This is what I observed, that the explanation in this particular article, who wrote this, which was really informative, was that, it seemed that the intention was to begin to include women of color or people of color even, and therefore insensitively used their own cultural images, or like that. The one image that Jarvis just put up is the image of a, kind of, he's not completely naked, but a black man. And then there was something else about using an eagle's feather, which was clearly pointing to indigenous spiritual culture without mentioning that it is that. And so can I ask you a question, Lauren, because I feel like this is a safer space? Is the line, so that's definitely part of it, is how it's insensitive to basically profit off of someone else's culture that is not your own, particularly when you're a person who has been benefiting from being white. You know what I mean? Like, it's so much easier. And what if inside your program, and you're not marketing that way, but you're fully crediting and saying this is a practice from this spiritual or this culture. My example is, and actually sometimes I teach this for free without any profit. I teach Ho'oponopono, which is an indigenous Hawaiian spiritual practice. Do you know if that is something that is also offensive? Have you observed that is a line that is also crossed, that is considered crossing?
I have heard actually several different viewpoints on that as long as there's being credit given and it's being made aware that this wasn't from our culture, it was from Hawaiian culture and the roots of that, and maybe being given credit to people who are doing that work. And another that says, well, you shouldn't be taking part of it at all because it's not your culture. So there's a lot of different opinions out there about it, but the idea being that when we can listen to those opinions without constantly being, well, you're calling me racist, you're calling me, like, instead of taking that on as personal and viewing what those opinions are, I think we could have better standing within using these teachings that they've passed on, these teachings, when we give the credit where credit is due. And I think that that's important enough to the community to really shout from the rooftops, hey, you're benefiting from our culture. Where are we represented in your energy? Where are we being given awareness in what you're teaching, when this is our teachings to begin with? And I think that's pretty fair. I think that if somebody
Absolutely.
took like my Body of Light program and started marketing it and started and didn't say like, this is where I got my, what I mean? It would be something.
Yeah.
Although, Crystal says that, all the time, and this is so important and was important for me, that there's nothing new under the sun, but maybe there is. Maybe there's some things we're not aware of. And that, when we're connecting to these teachings, it's really important to find from the source what they mean and how that benefits all of us.
It's really interesting because, I was a Bible scholar when I was a kid, up until my 20s. When you just said, Crystal says there's nothing new under the sun, that's actually, Solomon said that in the Bible. You see, you didn't intend to, give credit where credit wasn't really due. And,
right.
And Crystal probably, if she said that and didn't immediately credit Solomon, is because she's assuming it's empirical, what she's quoting and who she's quoting. So that's how that's how the lines get confusing and where feelings get hurt.
Yeah, which is why I think it's good to talk about, for us to,
absolutely. And to use compassion, because this is what else is fascinating here is we're talking about empathy. So when this topic of narcissism that I'm talking about, and by the way, it's not just narcissism. I'm learning a lot from this book that I'm reading called Reframing Narcissism. And I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting the author's name, but Jarvis will put up the image. But the name of the book, it's a doctor, Reframing Narcissism. And he talks about, I think maybe he coined it even, he mentions echoism as well. Echo in the legend or the tale of Narcissus is Echo is sort of the counterpart, the one who was so deficient in being able to speak her voice and her needs that she actually came to her own demise by it, and also set Narcissus himself into his demise, as a part of that. Yeah. Having that extreme, the vacuum of it, of being able to be your fullness of yourself, is actually kind of the other side of the conversation. Or if we look at narcissism and codependency, the codependent swing. And what happens on the spectrum of narcissism when it becomes more toxic, or not even to the point of disorder, but just to where it is actually on the side of it being imbalanced, is that there can be an empathy impairment. And this is what's happening when someone says, "But I'm not racist. But I'm not racist. How dare you say that?" Instead, and they're having a lapse in empathy, because what should be happening there is holding a space of compassion, as Archangel Ariel said. Have compassion first before reacting. Honestly, it's a reaction to a perceived insult, when it's like what you need to be doing is listening and holding space.
You and I both teach about the importance of listening to the emotions. And when there's anger and there's suffering, there's pain. When we're not able to hear the pain behind, the anger and the suffering, when we're not able to hear what the origination of what the problem is, we can't get to a solution. And so when we're working within the divine feminine, rather than it being just one race over other, but clarifying that between the races, between the energy of womanhood, that all women's needs are heard and communicated. So when we go into a feminist, agenda, and when we ask, for women to be empowered, when we ask for the divinity of women to be appreciated, and we're excluding some portion of womankind, well, we're not really healed nests yet. We're not really communicating with all of our compassion combined. And so it's just another part of the divinity of what we're doing here on earth, which is experiencing life and giving love where there is lack. And so really what we wanted to portray here today is, rather than getting into the fears and the objective kind of frequency of what it means to be racist or not, but to be able to listen and to be able to heal with the work we're already doing. Because that's what we're already doing. We're already looking in the places where we lack something and asking for compassion to heal it. We're asking for love to be the dominant vibration by which we approach all suffering. And so when we give our listening ears to those that we did not before, we give them compassion, and that is always healing. And so no matter what agenda or what purpose or what energetic awareness of the fear-based energy that we're looking at, rather than focusing on the situation of, well, she said this and this is wrong, looking at the situation and saying, where is their pain and what can I do to hear it and listen and feel joy in complimenting somebody who needs to be heard in their suffering.
Yes.
And that's really what I've come to learn in this whole, experience and in raising the divine feminine. And for some time, I've been connecting with earth energy. As you and I speak all the time, we need to be grounded. We need to be connected to earth. In order to be good spiritual people, we can't just focus on the crown chakra. We got to be human and bring the spiritual through us. And this is just another facet by which we can begin to expand our horizons in learning how to trust, be compassionate, and heal where there has been suffering. And that's really why I feel passionate about this, recently, because as I've grown in learning what it means to be connected to source through human flesh, there's suffering in the flesh. And when we give it our compassion, we heal. Yes. And this is just one part of that.
Something that really was illuminating for me in researching for this and seeing observing the conversations on different posts and reading, particularly reading the back and forth, because there would be someone who would have a reaction and say, well, I'm not racist, or someone else who just said, hey, let's just move toward unity. This doesn't matter. And then someone responded to this in this one particular person. It's like, that's not true. We are moving toward unity. But when you say, she said, when you telling me just to drop my pain and just move toward unity, that is a kind of spiritual bypassing. I'm voicing what I need healed, what space needs to be held for me. I'm totally paraphrasing, but I'm not this was in a text stream anyway. No, perfect. I'm interpreting, but see, there are these gradations, there are these nuances, all these very subtle shades of the energy. And so saying, I need space held for me, please, will you extend compassion, say, well, you should just get over that and let's just move to unity. This is a shade of that reaction rather than being present, holding space, and you say, complimenting the person who needs compassion, seeing if there's a way that you can be compassionate, which might be to just be there and to listen.
And it's somebody pointed this out to me in response to a discussion I was having. There's a beautiful group that actually been part of that I've been able to grow in and have a sounding board for. A woman, beautiful woman, Leah Ardent, woman of color, created this group to have this very open discussion to begin healing. Anyways, so I'm not sure if it was her or somebody else in that group responded to me and said, it's not so much that we need you to do something. We need you to support our cause. We need you to connect with what it is we're saying before trying to grasp onto straws and say, well, I feel bad. So now I have to do something. Teach me, do something for me. It's like calling out, the when we're speaking of sexual violence even and saying, well, the person who was victimized in that situation, what were you doing? Did you say something to cause this? And listen to the man's voice first. Maybe he thought something that wasn't transmitted correctly. Maybe he misunderstood your signals. And saying that to a woman who has been victimized by him, it's violent to them. It's violent, not to them, but it's violent in that way to say, look, and so that's why it's important to do the listening part first, and why it's evident that spiritual bypassing that you clarified so so perfectly just now was saying, hey, don't worry about it. Just everything's good. Why do you have to focus on the negative, which is another way of, not focusing on what the problem is. We can be positive while we heal, which is the point, because compassion brings love to where the pain is. And you can't just whitewash over it and say, well, there's no problem here because I don't feel a problem. Mm-hmm. I don't hear a problem.
I'm not the one who did it. I didn't, I'm not the person who committed these atrocities on someone, but they've also brought forward something. When I say they, I mean the people who are speaking up and showing us, being the mirror of what the issue is. I've seen them talking about being detoxed from basically covert white supremacy. And those, again, I'm so shy to use those words, but that really hit home for me, because when we talk about a detox, that means it is, and they're actually not even using the word covert. I'm using the word covert. It's something that we don't see. It's some shadow work that we need to bring out because it's in the shadow, basically.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I find that to be really helpful. By the way, Jarvis, how much time do we have? A few minutes left? Okay. We didn't actually give the phone number, and we probably don't have time, but just in case, 323-524-2599, if anyone is interested in joining their voice to this conversation before we wrap up our program today. And so what can we do? What can we do to continue to hold space, educate ourselves, listen? Do you have any advice how you became more educated on this? Because this is, like you said, it isn't their job. It isn't other people's job who are saying, hey, let me check you on this. It's not their job to go deep into it and give us the elementary version of what the issue is.
Right. Well, it really is about the energy of compassionate listening. And so when we listen to those who have that voice, it is patience in doing that. So if this is something you haven't heard of or really listened to before, and the words white supremacy or white fragility or things like that have come across, and you've like, no, I'm not listening to it. Listen to the energy behind it, and then take part in conversations. I think that it's important for white women to have these discussions amongst each other, because the reaction we might have at first is going to be defensiveness, is going to be, oh, hell no, that's not me. It's going to be, well, I was attacked. There was a particular situation where somebody on my Facebook went into we mutually like and listen to a woman of color's spiritual coach, and she was speaking about the whole Danielle Laporte thing, and she was coming from a place of anger and frustration, and she spoke out and said, I'm upset. What do I do about this? How do I know if I'm doing the right thing? And that is kind of centering on her pain or her frustration, rather than just listening and then contributing to what the problem is. And so she didn't understand. It was new to her. And so the woman called in, the woman who was speaking called in 2 other white women to show her, but these women actually attacked her. And I want to use that term loosely, but they humiliated her. They made her feel like, and to me, that wasn't their job as white women. Right. Their job was to say, hey, sister, come aside. Let me tell you, how to listen first and then ask questions. Let me show you, why it's bothering them that you're presenting your comments the way you are, and let me ask you to just listen. But it started a whole, oh my God, drama, Mm-hmm. So, but the thing is, when we started listening to each other complimentary, without not judgment, but without suffering the idea that we had to be violent towards each other to get the point. And I think it's important for us, as white women, to say, hey, listen first, mm-hmm. before we make the mistake of going out and saying something wrong that we get, attacked for. Because instead of creating an ally in that situation, they possibly created, somebody who can't relate anymore, mm-hmm. who can't even want to try. And so I think that's the responsibility of white women to each other, rather than asking, women of color to do the work for us. Sorry, got a fly around.
Well, what that just brings is another note that I made during the channel was that Ariel said that there is basically a false belief that we must suffer first in order to receive connection from higher beings. So we can apply that here, that the white women who verbally attacked the other white woman supposedly to correct her, but instead they actually dominated her. It's like they said, you need to suffer first before you can be welcomed into the conversation, and that's not exactly it. What she needs to do is to be open and show compassion first. So again, we're just these really subtle shades of how we're trying to correct. But you know what it is? It's that pendulum swinging. It's why that the dual experience is the dynamism of being in a duality. When we go one extreme, then we go to the other extreme, and then there are all of these places in between, and we're never going to be completely centered. That's not what the journey of duality is. But the areas that are closer to center are really where the beauty is, and being able to have compassion in that area is the whole experience.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but the idea being that the duality is only a place where there are places to create. And when there's places to create, you have different shades. But when there's suffering, it's less about duality and more about being complementary to the idea of learning how to approach fear in the duality race. In the duality, there really wasn't meant to be fear or judgment. There was meant to be space for creation, to bring light. But when we talk about duality as if it was the problem itself, we're denying God the creative aspect of having duality to become expanded, to become more creative. But when we look at what it causes, the lack in creation, the lack in light, the lack in love, we're not looking at the dark places and saying you're evil. But when we are fearful of looking at those places, we start to encourage anger about the pain we could possibly be feeling, and coming from pain is a very difficult energy to be in, and it's why we have so much discord. And that is why the divine feminine is raising its energy to say, listen to where the pain is. Compassion is the woman's energy, and that's why it's important that we receive one another first and then connect in wholeness as we raise our vibration on this time-space reality we call Earth plane.
Yes. Oh, that was beautifully stated. Yes. Well, we are just about out of time. Do you have any other final thoughts on this, or do you want to let folks know how they can, the work that you're doing and how they can get in touch with you? This has been a wonderful conversation.
And thank you so much. Thank you so much for having this. It's not an easy conversation to have. So thank you so very much, my Pisces sister. I swear we look like opposites between like the blonde and the but you're such my sister, and I love you so much.
Oh, you're my sister. Thank you. I love you.
Thank you. And also, if you want to get in touch with me for the work that I'm doing as far as bringing through the Archangel realm and healing with compassion the energy of what you may be fearing within yourself, that's my passion, to heal that which is dark within us with love. So you can always go to soulfultransformations.com and see more about what I do. And if you want to work with me, I also have a program called the Body of Light program that's in its third installation now and just growing with more and more light and information all the time. This is a new concept or new learning, new expanded energy that I'm in, that's being applied to the Body of Light program so that we can, as feminine energy rises, really take hold and love that. So if you have any questions about that or what I do, just email me, go to my Facebook page or soulfultransformations.com. So, and that's about it. Thank you.
Yes, Lauren's program, Body of Light, is really a life changer. So I highly recommend, working with Lauren in any way. And also you have a birth chart program coming up.
Oh my gosh, how could I forget that?
I almost forgot it too.
Tricia, how could I forget that? So in the Lightworkers Lab, it's my internet home over there. I'm hosting a class called Read Your Birth Chart, the map of your life. And it is such a powerful thing to know yourself and know the plan that you had for this lifetime, and to see it in the way that I'm going to teach it rather than looking at what was wrong and why do I have these negative traits and why do I have these negative experiences, we're going to learn to look at all the planets and the signs in our chart and see them for the passion that we wanted to experience in this lifetime, and know why many of us have different ideas of what's important to us. You know, why we have trouble in certain areas and how to really connect with those areas and bring light to them. So it's really a powerful class to learn how we can attune ourselves to our own life plan and then relate to others, because you'll also learn about other signs and other energies and why they are the way they are. And you can bring even more compassion, not only to yourself, but to the way that you interact with other people. It's just another tool to know ourselves. And I'm so excited.
I'm so excited.
I have a passion for astrology. So
yeah, I'm so excited about it. I want to grow my education, and you're my astrology guru. So I'm super excited about it to really get into it. And by the way, it's thelightworkerslab.com/chart. Is that the?
Yes.
Yes, to be able to read more and register. And when is it? Tell us the dates of the class.
It is May 17th and 18th. It's a weekend class. It's an intensive, but you have the information for about a year afterwards. You can take it in slowly. You'll get to learn a little bit more about yourself. And check it out. It's only $88. You get a packed class full of that you can use for a while, give you the foundations. Even if you are familiar with astrology, this is a new way to look at it. So take a look. It's fairly priced, and I don't know, I'm just excited. I'm so excited.
I'm super excited too. All right. Well, thank you again, Lauren Antuofermo, for bringing this beautiful discussion to our awareness today about the divine feminine. And Lauren, I know you'll be back on again, and I look forward to it. You can find her at soulfultransformations.com. Amazing discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. Again, my website is triciacarcharm.com if you're interested in working with me or want to check out my classes. And I look forward to seeing you and hearing you next week on ubnradio.com/channel1 or on any of my social media outlets you can find by searching Charmed Life with Tricia Carr on podcast and on YouTube and on my social media. So I will see you next week at 11 a.m. Pacific live, and thank you for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.